This is just a quick second part to a video I did the other day on that gearbox housing. This is to the eBay seller. Hold on, let's start this one. This is a stock standard diff out of a traxxas rustler. You can see how the internals turn. One turns one way, the other one turns the other way. If you know, you know. Alright. This is the diff housing, sealed diff housing I bought off you. Now if you know, you know. It's all locked up. Can't even turn it with my hand. Look. It's built exactly the same as that one, with the same internal gears out of that housing. Exactly the way you're supposed to build it. Now if you take all these screws out and don't put any pressure on the housing, they turn fine. But as soon as you put them screws in and put any sort of torque on them screws, blockage. It does move, look. It does move. Hold on. There we go. But it locks straight back up again. That's with those screws not even torqued down very tight. So you couldn't even put this into a model because those screws would loosen up even with Loctite on them. Well, even if you put Loctite on them so they wouldn't back out, you can't get the thing tight enough so all the oil would just leak out. Useless. Look, can't even move it. Can't even move it. That's number one problem. Number two problem. You can see around where the output shaft is. Hold on. You can see around where the output shaft is. How I've filed that tiny little ledge there. There's one on the other side. There's a little ledge there. From that point there, stupid phone. From that point there to the other side, focuses, to that side there, sits inside this housing. So one of those little nibs sits against this bearing, and the other nib on the other side of the diff sits against this bearing. When I first built it, and I put it together inside the diff, and then put these two housings together, they wouldn't close up because this diff was too wide from this point here to this point here. That's why it's not black anymore. That's why I filed it, just so I could get it to sit in there and close up. That's all I did. But it doesn't matter anyway because it's all locked up. If you want, I can undo the screws. Can't see. Here we go. See? It's just loosened. They were fairly tight, but they're not that tight, you know. That's loosened. Oh, they're really loose. See? That was just the Loctite holding that fucking screw in. Unbelievable. Now that it's loosened off, look. Now it's still tight, but still we can spin it. So there's all the pressure's not on the diff anymore, on the internal gears. So now it can spin. It's friggin' tight, but it still spins. And that's because those screws are loose. So there you go, Mr. eBay seller. Still tight as. And with those screws as loose they are, all the silicone oil is just going to leak out of it. It's just useless. Anyway, I'll be putting that standard diff back in without the standard, without the where is it? Without the sealed. I really wanted the sealed diff. That was all I wanted out of this and the gearbox housing. I wanted this the most. But yeah, I'll just stick the old trusty stocker on it until I get an RPM gearbox housing in the mail in a couple of weeks, in a week or so. So there you go, Mr. eBay seller. What do you think about that? Get back to me.